Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Grassroots Racer. This week is Bathurst week, so remember, guys, it's going to be an awesome event for everyone. Shame I couldn't go this year, but it's going to be pretty cool for everyone else who gets to go. It's once in a lifetime opportunity. If you can go, it's definitely worth going, and it's such a fun event. Also, good luck to all the previous guests that I've interviewed who will be racing in the Bathurst 1000. It's just an amazing opportunity to race at Bathurst, and I think it's super cool. You'd be lucky to get the opportunity. But I'm rooting for Ford because I'm a Ford man. So good luck to all the Fords, Tickford, DJR. Come on, boys, bring it home. And this week's episode is really exciting. We're going to be talking to a man, Brad Ross, who he started young when he got involved in motorsport, but he didn't get into it until later on. So we'll find out on this episode. Let's start with your racing journey, Brad. How did you get into motorsports and what attracted you to grassroots racing in Australia?
I actually started as a flag marshal back in 1988. My first meeting was at Winton. That was before they made it actually bigger. So where it turns left onto the new section, that just went straight through. And there was actually only 9 flag points instead of 12. But yeah, that was my first meeting in 1988. And 30 odd years later, because I'd always wanted to sort of drive a car and that, because I've always been into cars. And I just thought, I had a bit of a life change back in 2012. And that gave me the opportunity to seriously consider getting the other side of the Armco.
Yeah, cool. So what was the first car that you ever owned that you decided to take racing?
It was actually a little Corolla, 92 Corolla, actually. I got a bit of a payout from the business of because I used to work at Ford. And so I got a bit of a payout from that. And that gave me enough to sort of look for a car. I came across this one that was up in New South Wales. It was being used as a track car, so it didn't have a roll cage or anything else in it. It was like basically just a street. So spent a bit of money on that, got the cage put in it, and I think I only did a couple of regularity events, I think, with that car. That was all right. Yeah, I did the Phillip Island 6 hour, the Winton 12 hour in it. So yeah, it was a pretty reliable little car, but I just couldn't get my head around the front wheel drive.
Yeah, so what car was that?
That was the Corolla.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, I think it was an AE 92 or something. They call them.
So you raced the Corolla for a little bit. How much sort of work did you actually put into it? Because you did say you spent a little bit on it. So how much work did you put into it? And did you say you got sort of, would you say you got your money's worth?
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah, for sure. Yeah, after I put the roll cage in, and because it already had coilovers and everything in it, so effectively just needed to be stripped out and caged. So that's pretty much all I did. Look, it was a good car, little car to drive, and that. Like I said, I'm not good with torque steer,
Yeah.
So I like something I can sort of steer on the rear axle.
Cool. Yeah, because as we'll move on to it later, your Ford is rear-wheel drive car. So what was the next car though after the Corolla?
I actually dabbled in Nissans for a little bit. I bought an R30, an R30 Skyline hatchback, and I got all the cage and all that put in that. And I ran that a couple of times in regularities, but it wasn't that reliable. Like overheating problems and all that kind of stuff. At that point, I kind of sort of decided, do I really want to keep going with the Nissans? But I didn't have any other plans at that stage. So, yeah.
And did you ever run that in the state series, for an example, or did you just sort of do track days and regularities?
No, it's just regularities and that. I think I went up to Eastern Creek and ran ran that, and I think I only got about 5 laps for the whole weekend because it just kept overheating and just consuming radiators and stuff. So I went back on the truck and I went home.
And how did you sort of combat that afterwards? Did you ever try and make any improvements to it that worked, or did you end up having to pack it up and sell it?
Yeah, I pretty much left it in the shed for a good 12 months, and because I really wanted to go into the state series. So that was when I joined Improved Production Victoria, and I hung around with those guys for the first 12, 18 months without a car, just going to every meeting. So when I did turn up at a meeting, I wouldn't be like a deer in the headlights. And so that's probably going to bring us on to how I got my Falcon.
Yep.
Yeah. As it turns out, like I was at the Island Magic 2.5 years ago, I think it was, and a guy by the name of Craig O'Connor was running in saloon cars, and he basically came in after one practice session and sort of made the comment, "I'm glad I'm selling this thing." And one of the other guys from IP sort of looked straight at me and said, "Look, buy it because we want you out there."
Yeah.
So yeah, sort of mentally worked out all the figures. Went home on the Sunday night. And by Wednesday, all my Nissan stuff had been sold because I had the R32. I had the R30, and I also had an R32 that I was going to be setting up for the track.
Oh yeah.
So plus a myriad of spare parts. So by Wednesday, all that was sold, and that pretty much paid for the Falcon, which I've still got now.
Yeah. So tell us a bit about the Ford Falcon. If from the looks of it, it looks like an ED Falcon and maybe the XR8 version. But
yeah, no, what it is, it's actually an EA. I've made it into an EB XR6. It was red.
Yeah.
But I decided, like I always felt like I was driving someone else's car.
Yeah.
Out on the track, so I decided to go for a colour change, and that's the colour I decided on. I reckon it looks pretty good myself, but you know, I'm biased.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, what modifications did you have to do to it once you'd already brought it?
Well, because it was a saloon car, all I had to do was change. There's S bars on the front of the suspension, which saloon cars can run adjustable. Where we've got to run factory, so I just had to put factory S bars back on it. I put a rear wing on it. You don't necessarily need a rear wing, but it does help. So yeah, that were pretty much the only two things I did, really.
Yeah, because the car does look pretty cool, but you know it is an improved production, and improved production's got heaps of different cars. So what sets it apart from the other cars in the category?
I don't know, maybe the look of it, really, like because there's other guys running EA Falcons, but they've got the Barra motor in theirs where mine doesn't.
Yeah.
Mine's got the 3.9 litre, so I'm not as quick as a couple of the other guys. So like trying to chase them down's like a pretty hard slog, you know, because they've just got this that little bit more grunt.
Yeah. Yeah, because obviously the Barras are a newer engine, so they've got a bit more power. Inline 6, if I'm correct.
Yeah, that's correct. Yep. Yeah, twin cam inline 6. Yep.
Yeah. So they've got a bit of power on them, under them, but
yeah.
Have you? I know, like I've had a few improved production guys on the show, like Timewell, Cal Jensen. Those are just two off the top of my head, and they've done a lot to their cars to make them go quick. So, you know, do you ever find yourself? Do you reckon you'll do R&D in the future, even before you put the Barra motor in?
Probably not, because I'm actually in the process of building a new car.
Oh yeah.
I've got myself an FG Falcon, and I'll be running a standard 6 in that. So with the R&D on the EB, that probably won't be happening. It'll just be as it is. I'll just hang around the back of the grid and just because I had to go out there just have a bit of fun and
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. And you're not just a racer as well. You also own BDR Haulage. So how do you manage the demands of your racing? Well, it's but your racing career alongside you running a business.
well the racing career sort of takes care of itself because the business pays for the racing.
Yeah.
So and I've got a couple of contracts with a couple of companies that I kart for. One of them does work for the military, the railways, and Boeing. So they sort of keep me pretty busy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, as long as I've got enough to, pay the entry fee and put pads in it and put fuel in it, that's all you really need, really.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Well, you've been racing for about 2.5 years? Did you say?
Yeah, roughly about 2.5. Yeah, I'm pretty much at the end of my second full season.
Yeah. So, what would be your most memorable race or achievement in your racing career so far?
Um, like every time I qualify reasonably well, like depending on how many entries we've got, like I think the best I've qualified is probably 15th in a 24 car grid.
Yep.
So like to me, that's a massive achievement. Depending on the track as well, like I don't qualify that well at Winton because like Valken's not real suited for that track.
Yeah.
But like Phillip Island and Sandown. Like Sandown's a really good track, and I actually did a PB there meeting before last.
Yeah.
So
I've got to say Sandown is the best track on personally one of the best tracks in Victoria because I like it personally just because of the range of corners you've got. So you got straights, you've got fast flowing corners, you've got slow corners, you got corners where you're almost stopping. Like you've got a good range of corners there, and it's a real driver's track.
It is. It actually is. And when they changed and put that asphalt up at what we used to call Gumtree, I don't know if you remember Gumtree, but anyway, that's actually made the speeds down through there a lot quicker. Because they don't have the grass area there now.
Yeah. So, is that when you come through turn 7?
You come up over the top at the back straight and come down towards Dandy Road. And I'm pretty much taking that flat.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What sort of speeds do you do?
Back a gear. Well, I'm hitting 185 almost up the back straight.
So that'd be similar to what we do in the Formula V.
Yeah, potentially, yeah. But like some of the other guys will pass me like I'm standing still. So like I feel like I'm going fast, but I'm not.
Yeah. When we've got the tow in the Formula V, the other weekend the guys at the front were reaching 185 at Phillip Island. So because we've got a long straight at the back at Sandown, we do sort of similar. Not as quick, but probably about 160, 170 ish. But yeah, we take that corner flat.
Yeah. It just comes down to car setup. Like the suspension in the Falcon's pretty good. Like it'll go where it's pointed.
Mm-hmm.
So I just drop it back a gear and just get into it again. As long as I've got brakes at Dandy Road, I'm happy.
Yeah. Can you share with us any challenging moments you've had so far in your journey and how you overcome it?
Yeah, probably round 2, my first year. I had a bit of an incident off the start line with one of the other competitors and took us both out of that race. Because like at the when we did our drivers briefing, they said give each other room, which is pretty much a standard thing anyway. And I had one guy come down my right hand side, and I didn't see the guy coming down my left hand side, so I slightly moved to give this guy room, and this other guy's come through. My front wheels hit his rear.
Oh yeah.
And he went so high I could see the part number on his diff.
Oh geez.
Yeah. So that was a learning curve.
Yeah. Well, the guys in improved production and saloon cars, they're all they're all very good to each other. Like you guys seem to have a good community there. I could be wrong, but yeah, I don't know. You guys seem to all get along pretty well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Like we're just one big happy family, like if you accidentally balk someone or serve someone up during a race, you just go and do the walk of shame and go and talk to him, and it's all good.
Yeah.
Like my first 12 months, I did a lot of walks of shame. But yeah, no, look, now that I've got a handle on it. Yeah, no, I know when to move and when not to move.
Yeah. Yeah, because I just see with saloon cars, your community is pretty good, and then when you look at some of the other ones, like you'll get hit off, and there's a lot of tension because they don't even apologize. They just sort of.
Yeah, no. There's some categories are like that, but in pre-production, we're very much rubbing is not racing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But what sort of preparation do you do to the car? Because you said you only really sort of do the pads, fuel and the entry when you're entering a race. So is there any other things that you ever do? What type of servicing?
Not really. I'll change the oil and gearbox oil, all that sort of stuff, all the normal stuff. Do a full bolt check on it before it goes on the trailer. Just check all the bushes and everything, and just make sure everything's right in that respect. Yeah, because you never know what's going to go wrong at a race meeting. So there's only so much. Like, how far do you go?
Yeah. Well, we were just talking about the community and the support. So, grassroots racing obviously does rely on a community. So, how did the improved production guys really when did you sort of really settle in with them? Because you said you hung around with them for a little bit before you actually bought the car. So, how well did those guys sort of bring you into it and get you started?
Oh, pretty much straight away. Once you get used to who's driving what and who you're basically going to be like racing with on the track. Because that was the other thing, was I needed to know who my competitors were going to be in my class, and so now they just sort of wrap their arms around and sort of even though I didn't have a car, they were all saying, oh yeah, when you get your car, these are the guys you'll be running with. And as it turns out, they buggered off into the distance, and I'm sort of stuck up the back there with. Because I tend to dice a bit with the XLs and that.
Yep.
So, because the XLs, they look slow, but they are pretty quick.
Yeah. What about Richard Opie? Do you race him much or?
Yeah, I think yeah. We've had a couple of dices and that, and yeah. So Scott Appledore as well,
yep.
We've had a few good dices and stuff, and so because once he puts a 2-litre in his car, he's gone. So
fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, describe the feeling of being on the track, I guess, with the heat, the competition. What does go through your mind, because it is different for everyone, and considering you sort of got into motorsport a bit later, like you started racing a bit later on. How does it sort of feel for you when you're on the track?
It's a really weird feeling because I've come from flagging. I've got to get out of my head to stop flagging from the driver's seat. If I see an incident up ahead, I'll look at the flag point to see what flags they're putting out.
Mm-hmm.
When really I need to be concentrating on what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And but look, the first maybe first half season, I was just really nervous. I was seriously, almost sick, nervous when I was sitting on dummy grid.
Yeah.
Just waiting to go out, and but okay, fast forward 2 years, and the nerves, they're still there, but they're not nowhere near as bad.
Yeah.
I was always told, look, if you're not nervous sitting on dummy grid, then there's something wrong.
Yeah. Well, even Mario Andretti says if you feel comfortable driving your race car, you're not going fast enough. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
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 I
Look,
yeah.
I was given a book to read by one of my fellow competitors, and they talk a lot about when you're sitting in dummy grid, you've got to deflate the balloon. Like just calm yourself down, get all your thoughts sorted. Don't overthink stuff
Yeah. Well, this I've got a
because
book
whatever's
here.
going to happen out there is going to happen.
Yeah, I've got a book here, Jack Brabham one. It's actually
Yeah. Okay.
it's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
good book as well. I've got a lot of books here.
Yeah.
Obviously named after Ayrton Senna, so I've got a few Ayrton Senna
Yeah.
books
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of different driving styles, and I've been racing for 8 years myself, so I can definitely
Oh,
agree. I still get really nervous on the first lap, and then it
yeah.
sort of calms
Yeah.
down.
Oh yeah. Look, once the lights go out, it's all on. It's game on.
Yeah,
Like just it's the first lap down into the first corner, or the first two or three corners, because like you've got to work out. You've got to have good spatial awareness of where everyone is. You don't want to turn down on someone or something. So
yeah.
I just tend to just sort of let them go, and I'll just catch them up during the race.
Mhm. Well, yeah. Obviously, it's really tricky because with any category, in open wheelers, you've got tiny mirrors, so you can't see much. In saloon cars, sort of in pre-production
Yeah.
XLs,
Yeah.
you've got a big car, so you've got to manage your
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.
Every
Yeah.
category's got their sort of things they got to look out for. So turn
Yeah,
one, lap one.
I don't know how you guys do it. I really don't. Like, I need metal around me.
Yeah, I will. We Formula B actually have been cracking down on a lot of the cockpit stuff. So we've got the bar behind us, and it's got to be a
Yep.
certain height above us. Otherwise, if we roll over, you got
Yeah,
to leave
yeah,
room
yeah,
for the
yeah,
belt to stretch. So,
yeah, yeah. That's it. Yeah,
but yeah,
yeah,
I don't know. I feel like I could jump in a saloon car, jump in, just jump in any sort of car, and I feel safe because it's a race car.
yeah, yeah.
They're built.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
They're built for
Yeah,
safety.
yeah. They are. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Exactly.
Do you have any future goals? Because you have got a long term business, and you've been racing for a few years now. So do you see yourself doing much in the future?
Yeah. I think probably when I get the FG Falcon on the track, I'm going to do a couple of meetings in that. Then I might bring the EB out for one more run, and yeah, then that'll get sold off, and then
Yeah,
I'll just run the FG until I decide I'm too old to race.
yeah, no, that's fair enough. Obviously, because it's racing is unfortunately you got to start young for some people. You can start once you're already well into your life. You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you
yeah,
if you want to race for a long time, you got to start young. So
yeah, absolutely,
um,
yeah, exactly, yeah, yeah. Well, hey, look, it all comes down to lifestyle and
yeah,
whether you can afford to do it and that, like
yeah. Well,
so.
the great thing is, and which I'm trying to promote here, is Grassroots Motorsport. Is actually can be very cheap. It can be. It can also be very
Yeah,
very expensive. So,
yeah,
um,
yeah,
when you've got stuff like motorcars and autocross, that's very
yeah,
cheap. Then when you've got stuff
yeah,
where you go state series and nationals, that's when it gets expensive. So
yeah. It does. Yeah, it
yeah,
does. Like I've never really been one for like rallying and playing on dirt. Like I've always like the goal has always been to get onto into the state race series, and I've achieved that. So yeah, I'm just going to just stay with IP and just run the car that I've just finished building until I just decide, oh, this is getting too hard.
yeah, that's fair enough. Because actually, I was the same. I was a bit like, oh, I don't really like the look of rally and stuff. But when I did motorcars and autocross, I tell you what, it's actually really fun.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a totally different style of driving, which I've managed to adapt to. And it actually
Yeah.
helps me a lot in the wet. Like I sort of make myself very good in the wet. I always focus on being good in the wet because if I'm not quick in the dry, at least I know when the conditions change, I'll be quick somewhere. So
Yeah. Well, that's it. Yeah. Yeah. Well, when we had a bit of a wet qualifier practice session on the Friday out at Sandown recently, and my thing's not good in the wet. Like
Yeah.
it's just it locks the backs and it's understeering and it's just ugly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, we were at Phillip Island for the last round. Well, not the one that just passed, the one before we were at Phillip Island. Obviously it was a very bad weekend for rain. I guess in race 2 Sunday morning, I went from I think it was P18 to P8 in 2 laps.
oh wow.
So yeah,
So you got a bit of a duck's foot.
yeah, I got a good understanding of the rain because I've been doing it forever. I used to, when I was in go-karting, I used to go out on the track on slicks just to learn.
Absolutely. So the thing with the Falcon too is because it's rear-wheel drive, I can steer it on the rear axle in the wet.
Yep.
Just sort of like, it gets to a point where I know it's about to kill me.
Yeah. Honestly, some cars, they're really good. Like rear-wheel drive, I love them because you can control the rear of the car. But in the, then it's also a thing of sometimes you got to control the rear of the car, which can be really hard in the slippery conditions.
Well, when you're going sideways, you're not going fast. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's so true. Have you got any advice for aspiring racers who would like to get into motorsport? What would you say to them?
Look, if you really got the passion, then find a way of doing it. Because once you're in, it will never leave you ever. Whether you're a track marshal, whether you're a brand new competitor. Yes, it's gonna be nerve wracking. It's gonna be scary, but once you get your head around it, then you're gonna be off. You really will.
Cool. And what are some essential tips for someone looking to balance a racing passion they've got, but they've also got a professional career or business?
I honestly believe, like, if you want to go racing, you've got to put X amount away into a separate bank account for your racing. Because that's one of the things I found difficult to start with. I was trying to run my racing out of the business, if you know what I mean. Like, you've got to make sure you've got the funds there to do it.
Yeah,
because you don't want to turn up at a track and not have money for fuel, or have to buy parts and you don't have the money for it, because that's just the worst thing ever. Got to make sure you cover all your bases.
No, that's some good advice, Brad. I can't really say whether I agree or not because I don't own a business. Only 16, so.
Okay. Yeah, you got the world in front of you, man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you. I've got to make some moves because I've got to see what I can do in the future. But before we do,
like I've always said to people, find something you're very good at and make an income stream out of it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna try and keep my professional racing career going for as long as possible with the help of my partners. But you can't do it without them. So, do you have any sponsors or partners?
Yeah, I'm actually sponsored by Golden Plains Mechanical up here in Bannockburn, and also Sign Razor, who's also up here in Bannockburn. And so I've got spots for any other sponsors that may want to jump on board as well.
Yeah, and this is what it's all about, man. We want to try and promote grassroots racing as best as possible because look, it doesn't get the attention that it really deserves. So, if we can get grassroots motorsport out there, it's honestly, it would be some of the best stuff. Because I was talking to, do you know Richard from Winton? He's like a course there.
Potentially.
Yeah. Big beard.
Yeah.
He said, it's starting to become a real problem that we're not even getting enough volunteers to be flaggies anymore. So it's something that we So, you know, guys out there, if you want to get into motorsport, but, you know, if sadly, if you don't think you're good enough to drive, there's always opportunities to be a flag marshal, be in the timing box. There's so many good experiences out there. And like Richard's saying,
Absolutely.
if you're
Yeah,
good,
there is. Yeah.
yeah, he said you can even go to the Grand Prix and stuff just for being a flag marshal, which is a really cool experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've done pretty much every Grand Prix in Melbourne and the last two in Adelaide.
Yeah,
And
cool.
like once you've been doing it for a while, you become a little bit blasé. It's just another race meeting. You know, like everyone says, "Oh, you do the Grand Prix, you do the Grand Prix." I said, "Yeah, well, it's not that exciting, guys." You know,
Yeah.
like you know. But
Well,
I'd encourage anybody, if you do want to get involved in racing, like even start as a flaggy,
yeah,
and yeah, just so you can get your foot in the door. You
yeah,
know, or even like if you know someone who races, just even get involved in their team.
yeah,
You know, helping out, like you know, like as you know yourself, like a driver really appreciates if they've got somebody who comes up to dummy grid and just stands with them while
yeah,
they're there waiting to go out. You know, it
yeah,
calms their nerves and you know all
yeah,
that sort of stuff. You know, like you know, you don't have to get race out there and buy a car.
yeah,
You know, just get involved in the background.
yeah. And it doesn't go unappreciated. Like, you know, lots of the drivers really do appreciate it. It's just they don't really get the opportunity to say thanks. But I believe I can
No,
speak on behalf of most people when we do say, you know, we thank all the flag
absolutely.
marshals and every
Yeah,
volunteer who helps out at the racetrack.
yeah, yeah. Because you've got to remember too, like once we come in from our racing, like we're sitting in our van or sitting under our tent. Those guys are out there in the rain, in the
Yeah,
heat, in the wind, you know, like all conditions, you know, for us,
yeah,
you know, because without them, the racing wouldn't happen.
yeah. And they've got to give up their sometimes their Thursday, depending on how big the meeting is. They've got to give up their
Yeah,
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So
yeah,
that's big for, you know, someone to
yeah,
do it volunteer work. So, you know, if you finish a race, you know, just give the thumbs up to the marshals. I'm sure they appreciate it.
yeah.
I
Well,
know
I
I do
always give
that.
them a wave anyway.
Yeah, I always give them a wave or give them a thumbs up. It just shows
Yeah,
appreciation.
yeah,
You know.
yeah,
But
exactly.
before we wrap up, Brad, is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners, or any upcoming events or projects that you'd like to mention?
Um, well, I'm going to be entering Calder Park probably next week.
Yep.
Because I really want to run at that event. Because actually part of my officialing journey was I used to do work out at the Thunderdome as an outer observer on the outside of the track, and yeah, so the thought of going back to race at Calder because I've
Yeah.
never actually raced there in anger, because like I've done laps around pretty much every track because like the whole thing with the flag is when you're going out to your flag point you do a lap and then you go to your flag point.
Yep.
You know, like so. Yeah, I haven't really done a racing as such at Calder, so I'm really
Yeah.
looking forward to doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, I loved it when I went there. I didn't get to do the dome. I only got the little track, but that's still
yeah, the flat
awesome.
track. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
So
the bumps.
I wouldn't race around the dome. It's just too
Yeah.
scary.
The bumps are incredible coming into turn one and even on the exit
Yeah,
of
they
turn
are.
one.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's not the smoothest of tracks.
No. I was lucky I got to race there just recently. Oh, I went and
Okay.
did a test day, but yeah, I was lucky it was
Uh-huh.
recently, not a few years ago where it was pretty bad new track condition apparently. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But
So,
lastly, where can the listeners follow your racing journey, or if they want to stay up to date with your progress?
they can follow myself on Facebook, or they can get onto BDR Motorsport on Facebook. I tend to put updates up there at race meetings most times.
Yep.
Uh, just depend on what's going on with the car, from you know. But I will generally just give general updates like each
Yeah.
day where I qualified, you know, what my thoughts are, what the conditions are like, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, Yeah, thanks so much, Brad. That's a wrap for this episode of Grassroots Racer. So I got to say huge thanks to Brad Ross for sharing his incredible journey with us today, because everyone is different. It's awesome that you started later on, but you started young with flag marshalling and you got into it a bit later on. So that's a pretty awesome journey. And if you enjoyed this episode, please remember to subscribe, like the podcast, if you're on Spotify or YouTube. The feedback means heaps. And leave a comment on what you thought of Brad's story. And if you want to get into motorsport, my inbox is always open. If you want to jump on the show, my inbox is open. But to stay updated on Brad's racing and BDR Haulage Motorsport, check out in the description. I'll leave a link to it. And
Yeah, just be BDR Motorsport.
Oh yeah, BDR Motorsport. Sorry. Remember, drive fast, take chances, safely, of course. So thanks so much, Brad.
No worries. Thank you.